On today's video, we're going to start out by creating a bag of coffee in Blender. But before we get started, I want you guys to have a quick look at what we're going to build by showing you this render. We're going to look at a quick ad, and then as soon as we get through the ad, we're going to come right back and get started. See you then. Alright guys, let's get started and get down to business. As always, let me go ahead and clear my scene. Let me make sure that screencast is on for you. And what I want to do is I want to come in here and bring in a default cube, go into edit mode, and I'm just going to scale it down because what I'm essentially doing is I'm creating the primitive shape of the bag that I want to make in here. And if you watch what I'm doing, I'm essentially just scaling down some faces to get that basic shape of that bag. And you can see what kind of bag we're making. So down here at the bottom, I want to inset a couple of times. And I just want to pull this geometry up just to give it a folded crease look. I'm not going super detailed because in the view, it's going to be a static image. You're not going to see the bottom. This is a somewhat, I won't say it's a low poly model, but it's being built like a low poly model, but it's going to have a lot of geometry. So what I want to do right here is I want to bring a loop cut up because I'm defining the top of the bag where it crimps. And I'm bringing a support loop down at the bottom so we have less stuff moving around. And now what I want to do is I want to bring in a lot of geometry here in the middle. Vertically. And then I'm going to do the same thing horizontally. Went 50 for the first, 80 for the second, horizontal. That should give me a pretty dense geometry in here. So what I'm doing is in X-ray mode, I'm grabbing all of these faces up here at the top. And essentially what I want those to be is I'm defining the area where the crimp is. I'm going to grab this little piece here at the bottom as well. Because of the technique in which I'm going to use to make this bag, I'm just kind of building this in a way to where I already know it's not going to affect some things the way I don't want it to. So now I'm going to come down here and I'm just going to select all of these faces. And if you guys are new to Blender and don't know how I'm able to select so many things at once like this, I'm holding down the C key and then I'm scrolling my middle mouse button on my mouse to make the cursor bigger. In order to disengage this, you right click on the mouse and then it goes back to where it was before. But this is just a really quick way of selecting a lot of faces. So I'm gonna get everything in here. And now I've got my stuff at the top. I'm not gonna really grab anything on the side. I don't really care. I'm gonna let the tool work and do its thing to get the creases in there. So what I want to do now is I don't want to lose this selection. So now I'm going to come in here in my vertex groups and I'm going to assign that selection to this vertex group that I'm creating, and I'm labeling it pinned. I hit assigned and now I got a vertex group. Okay. So now that's done. I come back in object mode. And what I want to do now is I want to come down to my physics tab and I want to turn on cloth for the whole bag. I'm turning the gravity to 0 under fill weights, and under shape, I'm selecting my vertex group I just made, and I'm going to bring down the shrinking factor. The shrinking factor is what's going to give it those nice little wrinkles. And I'm going to turn on the pressure. That's going to inflate it or bloat it when we start playing the animation here. And if you notice, I'm hitting space on my keyboard to start the animation to essentially invoke the cloth simulation. And I'm just waiting till I see a frame that looks pretty cool. All right, so now I'm going to come back in here, and it wasn't wrinkled enough. So I'm going to come back in here and change my shrinking factor. I'm going to crank it down a little bit more. There we go. And then hit play again and let it run the simulation again. This is starting to look more like what I was looking for. So yet again, I'm looking for a frame that I want to live with. This one looks pretty good. So in order to commit these changes, I need to convert this into a mesh. So I select the bag, I right click, and I converted it. I'm getting ready to convert it to a mesh. Now it's geometry. So now I can sub D it, shade it smooth, and that sort of thing. I can't run the simulation on it anymore unless I run an additional simulation. So we're done essentially modeling that most part of that bag. So now I'm setting up the scene. I'm bringing in a ground plane. And as you've seen me do in many videos, I'm going to extrude it up, grab that vertex there, bevel it, put in a lot of bevel levels there, and I'm going to widen it out because this is essentially going to be our photo backdrop. I'm going to run shade smooth. And from here, I want to start kind of composing this shot. So I'm bringing my camera to my view, and I'm going to change the resolution here. I want it square, 1920 by 1920. Select the camera, and I'm going to change the focal length to about 80 millimeters. Kind of like you'd see if somebody's taking a portrait shot or a nice product shot. And I'm just going to center the camera up. Now I'm coming back down here to my bag. And I want to make sure that the bag is sitting on the ground plane and not hovering above it. But I'm also trying to be mindful that I'm not letting the bottom of the bag eat into the ground plane too much, so it looks fake. So I'm just going to nudge it down just a hair. Let a little bit of gap be in there so it adds to some of the realism. Now I'm going to render mode. And right now I only have the default light, that point light that's up there. So I'm going to add in an area light. And I'm just going to kind of play with lights for a little bit. Just sit back and watch. By no means am I a master at lighting. I'm decent at it, but I haven't mastered it. So I'm just playing with lighting, playing with ideas, and trying to compose a shot and get the look and feel in terms of the lighting that I want for this particular scene right here. It is a bit of trial and error. So as you see, I fast forward a little bit in the video, and I've got an area light up above illuminating the bag. I've got a rim light, and I'm essentially doing 3-point lighting, but not in the traditional way. I'm just randomly putting lights around and get the lighting on the bag like I want it. And I'm going into the world view here in a minute, and I'm going to crank that up as well. But I want to make sure that my camera's centered on my bag. That's looking pretty good. All right, let's crank the world view lighting strength up. That's going to compensate for some of the lighting there. It's a little low. So I just cranked it up a hair. So it just brought the whole scene up. So now let's go in here and let's start making some materials. I want to make this bag look like a kind of like a foil metal type of material, like metal, that metal plastic. I think it's can't think of the name of it right now. But they use it in space satellites. Anyway, but you guys will know what I'm talking about when you see the material. And right now I'm just playing on the color wheel, just trying to get, I want a little bit of a desaturated dark green. So I'm just kind of coming here and moving the sliders around. Normally I fast forward and cut this stuff from my video, but I thought in this case I'd let you guys kind of see my process of dialing in these colors like I want. And once I have the materials, that'll also help determine the lighting. One thing I wanted to go back and do is at the top of the bag, is I wanted to mimic the creasing effect, like where you crimp, where the bag is crimped closed. So what I did is I took a UV sphere. You've seen me do this in other videos, and I basically created a peel, and then I filleted it or cut it in half. Scaled it down to the appropriate size, and then just ran an array modifier across this top right here, just like you see I'm doing now. And if you'll notice, when the bag, and you'll see this here in a second, when I turn this bag around, you'll see it's at an angle. And I want to duplicate this on the other side. So I'll go ahead and apply the array modifier, just so it's locked in geometry and Blender's not having to calculate any change I make. Just speeds things up a little bit once I'm happy with committing the changes. So I'm going to select this. To get it on the other side, essentially what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a mirror modifier of this. And I want it on the appropriate axis, which would be the y-axis. And voila. We just simulated a crimping look on the bag. Is it the prettiest crimping look? No. But it works. When you see how dark green that is, and you look at the bag rendered at distance, it totally works. It's a technique I use quite often. If I had to do it again, I'd have made the little pieces a little bit smaller, but it's totally fine. All right, now I'm in the compositor, because one thing I want to do is I want to add a little bit of noise to this render. So I'm coming in, and if you notice, I have a mixed color node, and I have brought in a texture node, and I selected noise as the type of texture that I want. I'd changed the mixed color to screen, and I brought down the factor. And it adds a little bit of white noise into the image. It looks like film grain a little bit. It's a really nice effect. But I wanted to show you guys this too, because I actually use this quite often. Now I'm in Adobe Illustrator. I created a label really quick to slap on that bag. So now you're going to get to see me actually slap it on the bag. So now what I want to do is I want to come in and bring in a plane. The plane is going to be the object in which we apply the artwork to. So I'm just scaling it down, kind of lining it up with the front of that bag, which is where I'm going to want it. All I need to do is place it in front of the bag. I don't need to get all fancy with it and try to lock it to the bag or anything like that. So I'm going to subdivide it because I want this to have quite a bit of geometry, because there's going to be some deformation happening here shortly. Add a little bit of solidify on it. Not much, because no sticker is like totally flat. And I want to apply that. So now I'm going to come in here and look at all of the faces and verts, and I want to project it in my UV editing box. I want to project it from the view, which gives me a nice square representation of that label. And I'm going to bring in my artwork so I can stick it to my artwork. And I'm essentially lining the artwork up with the UV island in which you're looking at on the left-hand side of the screen here. I'm going to go to material preview because it's less consuming than the actual render. And I'm going to turn the guides off. So right now you're not seeing anything because there's two parts to getting this to work. One, you UV unwrap it, but then you also have to go in and create a shader for it. You got to tell Blender to apply a material to it to bring that artwork in. So that's what I'm doing now. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a name, material.label. And I got my principled here. And what I need to do is I need to bring in a image texture node. And I want to align color up to color for principle. And then with Node Wrangler, I hit Command T or Control T. And then I bring in my mapping node and my texture coordinate nodes. And then I just select that artwork from the selection I already had from us UVing it. And then you see here on the screen, I still got it repeat, but I'd change it to clip so it doesn't repeat. But in this case, because I UV unwrapped it nice and clean, it's not a problem. So now what I want to do, because we've got this hovering label, I select the label, and now I need to come in here under my modifiers and go to shrink wrap. And when I hit the little target, I want to make sure the target is the bag. So now it shrink wraps that plane where our label is on it to the bag. Now I'm changing the offset because I'm slowly nudging it above the surface of the bag. And right now I'm just kind of looking at some things here. I'm gonna get down close to it to make sure that my offset is good enough. It's close, but you can see that label's hovering above the bag a little bit much. So I can tweak that offset and nudge it closer to the surface of that bag so it looks a little bit more realistic. Like that. And I'll make sure this artwork is available for you too, if you want to try it out. So right here is the finished product. I mean, this was a quick win for you guys. This was an easy one. Blender did most of the work and you're done. You finished another model. Great job. If you like this content, please make sure to like and subscribe for more. And we'll have more. So I'm slowly ramping up the videos again, but we're coming up on it. So thank you guys for visiting this video, for sticking with it, watching it. This was a quick one. We're going to do some cooler stuff here pretty soon. I recently moved, so that's why I've been offline a little bit, but I'm slowly getting fitted back into the game. But see you guys on the next one. As always, take care. Thank you and peace out.